What's up, YouTube? It's Lauren here, and I'm here with another video for you guys today. This time, I'm going to be doing another read aloud. It's been a very long time since I've done one of these, and I'm really anxious to get done with the Red Pyramid so I can get, some other books done. And I'm definitely going to be doing the second part of this series once I finish this book. So today, we're going to try and get 2 chapters of this book done, and I think we can do it. I'm a little bit hungry right now, so, if you hear any rumbling in the back, that's my stomach. Anyways, alrighty, let's go ahead and start this video. Let me find, I left off on chapter 8, or at the end of chapter 8, so let me find chapter 9. That's chapter 10. I really need to buy some bookmarks. I think this should be chapter 9. Oh, that's chapter 8. Wow. There we go. Okay. And I'm doing this on the screen recorder because, well, my hair's a mess right now, and I still haven't found time to comb it. And I woke up late, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because I was up all night last night doing some stuff with some friends. So let's get started. All right, chapter 9. Now this is Carter reading, or this is Carter talking to us. So it switches between Sadie and Carter. Alright, chapter 9. We run from 4 guys in skirts. So yeah, our cat was a goddess. What else is new? She didn't give us much time to talk about it. She ordered me to the library to grab my dad's magic kit, and when I came back, she was arguing with Sadie about Cafu and Philip. We have to search for them, Sadie insisted. They'll be fine, said Bast. However, we will not be unless we leave now. I raised my hand. Excuse me, Miss Goddess Lady? Almost told us the house was safe? Bast snorted. Carter, the defenses were too easily breached. Someone sabotaged them. What do you mean? Who? Only a magician of the house could have done it. Another magician? I asked. Why would another magician want to sabotage Almos's house? Oh, Carter, Bast sighed. So young, so innocent. Magicians are devious creatures. Could be a million reasons why one would backstab another. But we don't have time to discuss it. Now come on. She grabbed our arms and led us out the front door. She sheathed her knives, but she still had some wicked sharp claws for fingernails that hurt as they dug into my skin. As soon as we stepped outside, the cold wind stung my eyes. We climbed down a long flight of metal stairs into the industrial yard that surrounded the factory. Dad's work bag was heavy on my shoulder. The curved sword I'd strapped across my back felt cold against my thin linen clothes. Started to sweat during the serpent part attack, and now my perspiration felt like it was turning to ice. Looked around for more monsters, but the yard seemed abandoned. Old construction equipment lay in rusting heaps. A bulldozer, a crane with a wrecking ball, and a couple of cement mixers. Sorry about that. Piles of sheet metal and stacks of crates made a maze of obstacles between the house and the street a few hundred yards away. We were about halfway across the yard when an old grey tomcat stepped in our path. One of his ears was torn. His left eye was swollen shut, and judging from the scars, he'd spent most of his life fighting. Bast crouched and stared at the cat. He looked up at her calmly. Thank you, Bast said. The old tomcat trotted off toward the river. What was that about? Sadie asked. One of my subjects, offering help. He'll spread the news about our predicament. Soon every cat in New York will be on alert. He was so battered, Sadie said. If he's your subject, couldn't you heal him? And take away his marks of honor? The cat's battle scars are part of his identity. I couldn't. Suddenly Bast tensed. She dragged us behind a stack of crates. What is it? I whispered. She flexed her wrists and her knives slid into her hands. She peeped over the top of the crates, every muscle in her body trembling. Tried to see what she was looking at, but there was nothing except the old wrecking ball crane. Bast's mouth twitched with excitement. Her eyes were fixed on the huge metal ball. I'd seen kittens look like that when they stalked catnip, toy mice, or pieces of string, or rubber balls. Balls? No, Bast was an ancient goddess. Surely she wouldn't. This could be it. She shifted her weight. Stay very still. There's no one there, Sadie hissed. I started to say, Bast lunged over the crates. She flew 30 feet through the air, knives flashing, and landed on the wrecking ball with such force that she broke the chain. The cat got us in a huge metal sphere, smashed into the dirt, and went rolling across the yard. "Meow!" Bast wailed. The wrecking ball rolled straight over her, but she didn't appear hurt. She leaped off and pounced again. Her knives sliced through the metal like wet clay. Within seconds, the wrecking ball was reduced to a mound of scraps. Bast sheathed her blades. "Safe now." Sadie and I looked at each other. "You saved us from a metal ball," Sadie said. "You never know," Bast said. "It could have been hostile." Just then a deep boom shook the ground. I looked back at the mansion. Tendrils of blue fire curled from the top windows. "Come on," Bast said. "Our time is up." I thought maybe she'd whisk us off by magic, or at least hail a taxi. Instead, Bast borrowed a silver Lexus convertible. "Oh yes," she purred. "I like this one. Come along, children." "But this isn't yours," I pointed out. "My dear, I'm a cat. Everything I see is mine." She touched the ignition and the keyhole sparked. The engine began to purr. "No, Sadie, not like a cat, like an engine." "Sadie, Bast," I said, "you can't just—" Sadie elbowed me. "We'll work out how to return it later. Carter, right now we've got an emergency." She pointed back toward the mansion. Blue flames and smoke now billowed from every window. But that wasn't the scary part. Coming down the stairs were 4 men carrying a large box like an oversized coffin with long handles sticking out at both ends. The box was covered with a black shroud and looked big enough for at least 2 bodies. The 4 men wore only kilts and sandals. Their coppery skin glinted in the sun as if made of metal. "Oh, that's bad," Bast said. "In the car, please." I decided not to ask questions. Sadie beat me to the shotgun seat, so I climbed in back. The 4 metallic guys with the box were racing across the yard, coming straight for us at an unbelievable speed. Before I even had my seatbelt on, Bast hit the gas. We tore through the streets of Brooklyn and weaving insanely through traffic, riding over sidewalks and narrowly missing pedestrians. Bast drove with reflexes that were, well, cat-like. Any human trying to drive so fast would have had a dozen wrecks, but she got us safely onto the Williamsburg Bridge. Thought for sure we must have lost our pursuers, but when I looked back, the 4 copper men with the black box were weaving in and out of traffic. They appeared to be jogging at a normal pace, but they passed cars that were doing 50. Their bodies blurred like choppy images in an old movie, as if they were out of sync with the regular stream of time. "What are they?" I asked. "Shabti?" "No, carriers." Bast glanced in the rear view mirror. "Summoned straight from the Duat. They'll stop at nothing to find their victims. Throw them in the sedan." "The what?" Sadie interrupted. "The large box," Bast said. "It's kind of a carriage. The carriers capture you, beat you senseless, throw you in and carry you to their master. They never lose their prey and they never give up." "But what do they want us for?" "Trust me," Bast growled. "You don't want to know. Thought about the fiery man last night in Phoenix. How he'd fried one of his servants into a grease spot. Was pretty sure I didn't want to meet him face to face again." "Bast," I said, "if you're a goddess, can't you just snap your fingers and disintegrate those guys? Or wave your hand and teleport us away?" "Wouldn't that be nice? But my power on this host is limited." "You mean Muffin?" Sadie asked. "But you're not a cat anymore." "She's still my host, Sadie, my anchor on this side of the Duat, and a very important one. Your call for help allowed me to assume human shape, but that alone takes a great deal of power. Besides, even when I'm a powerful host, Set's magic is stronger than mine." "Could you please say something I actually understand?" I pleaded. "Carter, we don't have time for a full discussion on gods and hosts and the limits of magic. We have to get you to safety." Bast floored the accelerator and shot up the middle of the bridge. The 4 carriers with the sedan raced after us, blurring the air as they moved, but no cars swerved to avoid them. No one panicked or even looked at them. "How can people not see them?" I said. "Don't they notice 4 copper men in skirts running up at the bridge with a weird black box?" Bast shrugged. Cats can hear many sounds you can't. Some animals see things in the ultraviolet spectrum that are invisible to humans. Magic is similar. Did you notice the mansion when he first arrived? Well, no. And you are born to magic, Bast said. Imagine how hard it would be for a regular mortal. Born to magic? I remembered what Amos had said about our family being in the House of Life for a long time. If magic, runs in the family, why haven't I ever been able to do it before? Bast smiled in the mirror. Your sister understands. Sadie's ears turned red. No, I don't. I still can't believe you're a goddess. All these years you've been eating crunchy treats, sleeping on my head. I made a deal with your father, Bast said. He let me remain in the world as long as I assumed a minor form. A normal house cat, so I could protect and watch over you. It's the least I could do after... She stopped abruptly. A horrible thought occurred to me. My stomach fluttered, and it had nothing to do with how fast we were going. After our mom's death, I guess? Bast stared straight ahead out the windshield. That's it, isn't it? I said. Mom and Dad did some kind of magic ritual at Cleopatra's Needle. Something went wrong, our mom died, and they released you. It's not important right now, Bast said. The point is, I agreed to look after Sadie, and I will. She was hiding something, I was sure of it, but her tone made it clear that the subject was closed. If you gods are so powerful and helpful, I said, why does the House of Life forbid magicians from summoning you? Bast swerved into the fast lane. Magicians are paranoid. Your best hope is to stay with me. We'll get as far away as possible from New York, then we'll get help and challenge Set. What help? Sadie asked. Bast raised an eyebrow. Why, we'll summon more gods, of course. Chapter 10. Bast goes green. Carter. Sadie, stop it. Yes, I'm getting to that part. Sorry, she keeps trying to distract me by setting fire to my... Never mind. Where was I? We barreled off the Williamsburg Bridge into Manhattan and headed north on Clinton Street. They're still following, Sadie warned. Sure enough, the carriers were only a block behind us, weaving around cars and trampling over sidewalk displays of tourist junk. We'll buy some time, Bast growled deep in her throat. A sound so low and powerful it made my teeth buzz. She yanked the wheel and swerved right onto East Houston. I looked back. Just as the carriers turned the corner, a horde of cats materialized all around them. Some jumped from windows, some ran from the sidewalks and alleys, some crawled from the storm drains. All of them converged on the carriers, and a wave of fur and claws, climbing up their copper legs, scratching their backs, clinging to their faces, and weighing down the sedan box. The carriers stumbled, dropping the box. They began blindly swatting at the cats. Two cars swerved to avoid the animals and collided, blocking the entire street, and the carriers went down under the mass of angry felines. We turned onto the FDR drive, and the scene disappeared from view. Nice, I admitted. It won't hold them long, Bast said. Now, Central Park! Bast ditched the Lexus at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We'll run from here, she said. It's just behind the museum. When she said run, she meant it. Sadie and I had to sprint to keep up, and Bast wasn't even breaking a sweat. She didn't stop for little things like hot dog stands or parked cars. Anything under 10 feet tall, she leaped over with ease, leaving us to scramble around the obstacles as best we could. We ran into the park on the East Drive. As soon as we turned north, the obelisk loomed above us. A little over 70 feet tall, it looked like an exact copy of the Needle in London. It was tucked away on a grassy hill, so it actually felt isolated, which is hard to achieve in the center of New York. There was no one around except a couple of joggers farther down the path. I could hear the traffic behind us on Fifth Avenue, but even that seemed far away. We stopped at the obelisk's base. Bast sniffed the air as if smelling for trouble. Once I was standing still, I realized just how cold I was. The sun was directly overhead, but the wind ripped right through my borrowed linen clothes. I wish I'd grabbed something warmer, I muttered. A wool coat would be nice. No, it wouldn't, Bast said, scanning the horizon. You're dressed for magic. Sadie shivered. We have to freeze to be magical? Magicians avoid animal products, Bast said absently. Fur, leather, wool, any of that. Oh, fur, leather, wool, any of that. Sorry about that. The residual life aura can interfere with spells. My boots seem all right, Sadie noted. Leather, Bast said with distaste. You may have a higher tolerance, so a bit of leather won't bother your magic. I don't know, but linen clothing is always best. Or cotton, plant material. At any rate, Sadie, I think we're clear for the moment. There's a window of auspicious time starting right now at 11:30, but it won't last long. Get started. Sadie blinked. Me? Why me? You're the goddess. I'm not good at portals, Bast said. Cats are protectors. Just control your emotions. Panic or fear will kill a spell. We have to get out of here before Set summons the other gods to his cause. I frowned. You mean Set's got, like, other evil gods on speed dial? Bast glanced nervously towards the trees. Evil and good may not be the best way to think of it, Carter. As a magician, you must think about chaos and order. Those are the two forces that control the universe. Set is all about chaos. What about the other gods Dad released? I persisted. Aren't they good guys? Isis, Osiris, Horus, Nephthys? Where are they? Bast fixed her eyes on me. That's a good question, Carter. Siamese cat broke through the bushes and ran up to Bast. They looked at each other for a moment, and then the Siamese dashed away. The carriers are close, Bast announced, and something else. Something much stronger closing in from the east. I think the carrier's master has grown impatient. My heart did a flip. Set is coming? No, Bast said. Perhaps a minion or an ally. My cats are having trouble describing what they're seeing, and I don't want to find out. Sadie, now is the time. Just concentrate on opening a gateway to the Duat. I'll keep off the attackers. Combat magic is my specialty. Like what you did in the mansion? I asked. Bast showed her pointed teeth. No, that was just combat. The woods rustled and the carriers emerged. Their sedan chair's shroud had been shredded by cat claws. The carriers themselves were scratched and dented. One walked with a limp, his leg bent backward at the knee. Another had a car fender wrapped around his neck. The four metal men carefully set down their sedan chair. They looked at us and drew golden metal clubs from their belts. Sadie, get to work, Bast ordered. Carter, you're welcome to help me. The cat goddess unsheathed her knives. Her body began to glow with a green hue. An aura surrounded her, growing larger like a bubble of energy, and lifted her off the ground. The aura took shape until Bast was encased in a holographic projection about 4 times her normal size. It was an image of the goddess in her ancient form, 20-foot tall woman with the head of a cat. Floating in midair in the center of the hologram, Bast stepped forward. The giant cat goddess moved with her. It didn't seem possible that a see-through image could have substance, but its foot shook the ground. Bast raised her hand. The glowing green warrior did the same, unsheathing claws as long and sharp as rapiers. Is that how you say that? Rapier? Whatever. Okay. Bast swiped the sidewalk in front of her and shredded the pavement to concrete ribbons. She turned and smiled at me. The giant cat's head did likewise, bearing horrible fangs that could have bitten me in half. This, Bast said, is combat magic. At first I was too stunned to do anything, but watch as Bast launched her green war machine into the middle of the carriers. She slashed one carrier to pieces with a single swipe, then stepped on another and flattened them into a metal pancake. The other 2 carriers attacked her holographic legs, but their metal clubs bounced harmlessly off the ghostly light with showers of sparks. Meanwhile, Sadie stood in front of the obelisk with her arms raised, shouting, "Open, you stupid piece of rock!" Finally, I drew my sword. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to charge in the battle, but I felt like I should help. And if I had to fight, I figured having a 20-foot tall glowing cat warrior on my side was the way to do it. Sadie, I'm going to help Bast. Keep trying. I am! I ran forward just as Bast sliced the other 2 carriers apart like loaves of bread. With relief, I thought, well, that's it. Then all 4 carriers began to reform. The flat one peeled himself off the pavement. The sliced one's pieces clicked together like magnets, and the carrier stood up good as new. Carter, help me hack them apart, Bast called. They need to be in smaller pieces. Tried to stay out of Bast's way as she sliced and stomped, and then as soon as she disabled the carrier, went to work chopping its remains into smaller pieces. They seemed more like Play-Doh than metal because my blade mashed them up pretty easily. After another few minutes, and I was surrounded by piles of coppery rubble, but Bast made a glowing fist and smashed the sedan into kindling. That wasn't so hard, I said. What were we running for? Inside her glowing shell, Bast's face was coated with sweat. It hadn't occurred to me that a goddess could get tired, but her magic avatar must have taken a lot of effort. We're not safe yet, she warned. Sadie, how's it coming? It's not, Sadie complained. Isn't there another way? Before Bast could answer, the bushes rustled with a new sound, like rain, except more slithery. A chill ran up my back. What is that? No, Bast murmured. It can't be. Not her. Then the bushes exploded. 1,000 brown, creepy crawlies poured from the woods in a carpet of grossness, all pincers and stinging tails. Wanted to yell, "Scorpions!" but my voice wouldn't work. My legs started trembling. I hate scorpions. They're everywhere in Egypt. Many times I'd found them in my hotel bed or shower, and once I'd even found one in my sock. Sadie, Bast called urgently. Nothing, Sadie moaned. The scorpions kept coming. Thousands upon thousands. Out of the woods a woman appeared, walking fearlessly through the middle of the arachnids. She wore brown robes with gold jewelry glinting around her neck and arms. Her long black hair was cut ancient Egyptian style with a strange crown on top. Then I realized it wasn't a crown. She had a live, supersized scorpion nesting on her head. Millions of the little nasties swirled around her like she was the center of their storm. Cirquet, Bast growled. The scorpion goddess, I guess. Maybe that should have terrified me, but I was already pretty much at my maximum. Can you take her? Bast's expression didn't reassure me. Carter, Sadie, she said, this is going to get ugly. Get to the museum, find the temple. It may protect you. What temple? I asked. What about you? Sadie asked. Sadie added, I'll be fine. I'll catch up. But when Bast looked at me, I could tell she wasn't sure. She was just buying us time. Go! She ordered. She turned her giant green cat warrior to face the massive scorpions. Embarrassing truth, in the face of those scorpions, I didn't even pretend to be brave. I grabbed Sadie's arm, and we ran. I'll do one more chapter. Chapter 11, we meet the human flamethrower, Sadie. Right, I'm taking the microphone. There is no chance Carter would tell this part properly, as it's about Zaya. Shut up, Carter, you know it's true. Oh, who is Zaya? Sorry, getting ahead of myself. We raced to the entrance of the museum, and I had no idea why, except that a giant glowing Catwoman had told us to. Now you must realize I was already devastated by everything that had happened. First, I'd lost my father. Second, my loving grandparents had kicked me out of the flat. Then I discovered I was apparently blood of the pharaohs, born to a magical family, and all sorts of rubbish that sounded quite impressive, but only brought me loads of trouble. And as soon as I'd found a new home, a mansion with proper breakfast and friendly pets, and quite a nice room for me. By the way, Uncle almost disappeared. My lovely new crocodile and baboon friends were tossed in the river, and the mansion was set on fire. And if that wasn't enough, my faithful cat Muffin had decided to engage in a hopeless battle with a swarm of scorpions. Do you call it a swarm for scorpions? A herd? A gaggle? Oh, never mind. Point is, I could barely believe I'd been asked to open a magic doorway when clearly I had no such skill. Now my brother was dragging me away. I felt like an utter failure. And no comments from you, Carter. As I recall, you weren't much help at the time either. We can't just leave Bast, I shouted. Look! Carter kept running, dragging me along, but I could see quite clearly what was happening back at the obelisk. A swarm of scorpions had crawled up Bast's glowing green legs and were wriggling into the hologram like it was gelatin. Bast smashed hundreds of them with her feet and fists, but there were simply too many. Soon they were up to her waist, and her ghostly shell began to flicker. Meanwhile, the brown-robed goddess advanced slowly, and I had a feeling she would be worse than any number of scorpions. Carter pulled me through a row of bushes, and I lost sight of Bast. We burst onto Fifth Avenue, which seemed ridiculously normal after the magic battle. We ran down the sidewalk, shoved through a knot of pedestrians, and climbed the steps of the Met. A banner above the entrance announced some sort of special Christmas event, which I suppose is why the museum was open on the holiday, but I didn't bother reading the details. We pushed straight inside. What did it look like? Well, it was a museum, huge entry hall, lots of columns, and so on. I can't claim I spent much time admiring the decor. I do remember it had queues for ticket windows because we ran right past them. There were also security guards because they yelled at us as we dashed into the exhibits. By luck, we ended up in the Egyptian area in front of a reconstructed tomb sort of place with narrow corridors. Carter probably could have told you what the structure was supposed to be, but honestly I didn't care. Come on, I said. We slipped inside the exhibit, which proved quite enough to lose the security guards, or perhaps they had better things to do than pursue naughty children. When we popped out again, we sneaked around until we were sure we weren't being followed. The Egypt wing wasn't crowded, just a few clumps of old people and a foreign tour group with a guide explaining a sarcophagus in French. Et voici la momie. I think that's how you say that. I don't know. Took French in high school, but it didn't work out. Moving on. Strangely, no one seemed to notice the enormous sword on Carter's back, which surely must have been a security issue, and much more interesting than the exhibits. Few old people did give us odd looks, but I suspect that's because we were dressed in linen pajamas, drenched in sweat, and covered in grass and leaves. My hair was probably a nightmare as well. I found an empty room and pulled Carter aside. The glass cases were full of shop tea. A few days earlier, I wouldn't have given them a second thought. Now I kept glancing at the statues, sure they'd come to life in a minute and try to bash me on the head. What now? I asked Carter. Did you see any temple? No, He knit his eyebrows as if trying hard to remember. I think there's a rebuilt temple down that hall, or is that in the Brooklyn Museum? Maybe that's the one in Munich. Sorry, I've been to so many museums with Dad that they all get mixed together. I sighed in exasperation. Poor boy, forced to travel the world, skip school, and spend time with Dad while I get a whole 2 years a day, whole 2 days a year with him. Hey, Carter turned on me with a surprising force. You get a home, you get friends and a normal life, and don't wake up each morning wondering what country you're in. You don't. Glass case next to us shattered, spraying glass at her feet. Carter looked at me, bewildered. Did we just, like my exploding birthday cake, I grumbled, trying not to let on how startled I was. You need to control your temper. Me? Alarms began to blare. Red lights pulsed through the corridor. A garbled voice came on the loudspeaker and said something about proceeding calmly to the exits. The French tour group ran past us, screaming in panic, followed by a crowd of remarkably fast old people with walkers and canes. Let's finish arguing later, shall we? I told Carter. Come on. We ran down another corridor and the sirens died as suddenly as they'd started. The blood-red lights kept pulsing in eerie silence. Then I heard it. The slithering, clacking sounds of scorpions. What about Bast? My voice choked up. Is she? Don't think about it, Carter said, though, judging from his face, that's exactly what he was thinking about. Keep moving. Soon we were hopelessly lost. As far as I could tell, the Egyptian part of the museum was designed to be as confusing as possible, with dead ends and halls that doubled back on themselves. We passed hieroglyphics, scrolls, gold jewelry, sarcophagi, statues of pharaohs, and huge chunks of limestone. Why would someone display a rock? Weren't there enough of those in the world? We saw no one, but the slithering sounds grew louder no matter which way we ran. Finally, I rounded a corner and smacked straight into someone. I yelped and scrambled backwards, only to stumble into Carter. We both fell on our bums in the most unflattering way. It's a miracle Carter didn't impale himself on his own sword. First, I didn't recognize the girl standing in front of us, which seemed strange looking back on it. Perhaps she was using some sort of magic aura, or perhaps I just didn't want to believe it was her. She looked a bit taller than me, probably older too, but not by much. Her black hair was trimmed along her jawline and longer in the front so that it swept over her eyes. She had caramel-colored skin and a pretty vaguely Arab features. Her eyes, lined a black coal Egyptian style, were a strange amber color that was either quite beautiful or a bit scary. I couldn't decide which. She had a backpack on her shoulder and wore sandals and loose-fitting linen clothes like ours. She looked as if she were on her way to a martial arts class. God, now that I think about it, we probably looked the same way. How embarrassing. Slowly began to realize I'd seen her before. She was the girl with the knife from the British Museum. Before I could say anything, Carter sprang to his feet. He moved in front of me and brandished his sword as if trying to protect me. Can you believe the nerve? Get back, he stammered. The girl reached into her sleeve and produced a curved, white piece of ivory, an Egyptian wand. She flicked it to one side and Carter's sword flew out of his hands and clattered to the floor. Don't embarrass yourself, the girl said sternly. Where is Amos? Carter looked too stunned to speak. The girl turned towards me. Her golden eyes were both beautiful and scary. I decided, man, I didn't like her a bit. Well, she demanded. I didn't see why I needed to tell her a bloody thing, but an uncomfortable pressure started building in my chest, like a bird trying to get free. I heard myself say, Amos is gone. He left this morning. And the cat demon? That's my cat, I said, and she's a goddess, not a demon. She saved us from the scorpions. Carter unfroze. He snatched up his sword and pointed at the girl again. Full credit for persistence, I suppose. Who are you? He demanded. What do you want? My name is Zia Rashid. She tilted her head as if listening. Right on cue, the entire building rumbled. Dust sprinkled from the ceiling, and the slithering sounds of scorpions doubled in volume behind us. And right now, Zia continued, sounding a bit disappointed, I must save your miserable lives. Let's go. I suppose we could have refused, but our choices seemed to be Zia or the scorpion, so we ran after her. She passed a case full of statues and casually tipped the glass with her wand. Tiny granite pharaohs and limestone gods stared at her command. They hopped off the pedestals and crashed through the glass. Some wielded weapons, others simply cracked their stone knuckles. They let us pass, but stared down the corridor behind us as if waiting for the enemy. Hurry, Zia told us. These will only buy us time, I guess. Yes, we've heard that before. You talk too much, Zia said without stopping. I was about to make a withering retort. Honestly, I would have put her in her place quite properly, but just then we emerged into an enormous room, and my voice abandoned me. Whoa, Carter said. couldn't help agreeing with him. The place was extremely low. The room was the size of a football stadium. One wall was made completely of glass and looked out on the park. In the middle of the room, on a raised platform, an ancient building had been reconstructed. There was a freestanding stone gateway about 8 meters tall, and behind that an open courtyard and square structure made of uneven sandstone blocks carved all over on the outside with images of gods and pharaohs and hieroglyphs. Flanking the building's entrance were 2 columns bathed in eerie light. An Egyptian temple, I guess. The Temple of Dendur, Zia said. Actually, it was built by the Romans when they occupied Egypt, Carter said, like this was delightful information. Augustus commissioned it. Yes, Zia said. Fascinating, I murmured. Would you two like to be left alone with a history textbook? Zia scowled at me. At any rate, the temple was dedicated to Isis, so it will have enough power to open a gate. To summon more gods, I asked. Zaya's eyes flashed angrily. Accuse me of that again and I'll cut out your tongue. I meant a gateway to get you out of here. I felt completely lost, but I was getting used to that. We followed Zaya up the steps and through the temple stone gateway. The courtyard was empty, abandoned by the fleeing museum visitors, which made it feel quite creepy. Giant carvings of gods stared down at me. Hieroglyphic inscriptions were everywhere, and I was afraid that if I concentrated too hard, I might be able to read them. Zaya stopped at the front steps of the temple. She held up her wand and wrote in the air. A familiar hieroglyph burned between the columns. Open, the same symbol Dad had used at the Rosetta Stone. I waited for something to blow up, but the hieroglyph simply faded. Zaya opened her backpack. We'll make her stand here until the gate can be opened. Why not just open it now? Carter asked. Portals can only appear at auspicious moments, Zaya said. Sunrise, sunset, midnight eclipses, astrological alignments, the exact time of God's birth. Oh, come on, I said. How can you possibly know all that? Takes years to memorize the complete calendar, Zaya said, but the next auspicious moment is easy. High noon. 10.5 minutes from now. She didn't check a watch. I wondered how she knew the time so precisely, but I decided it wasn't the most important question. Why should we trust you? I asked. As I recall, at the British Museum, you wanted to gut us with a knife. That would have been simpler, Zaya sighed. Unfortunately, my superior think you might be innocents. So for now, I can't kill you, but I also can't allow you to fall into the hands of the Red Lord. And so, you can trust me. Well, I'm convinced, I said. I feel all warmy and fuzzy inside. Zaya reached into her bag and took out 4 little statues, animal-headed men, each about 5 centimeters tall. She handed them to me. Put the sons of Horus around us at the cardinal points. Excuse me? North, south, east, and west. She spoke slowly as if I were an idiot. I know compass directions, but that's north, Zaya pointed at the wall of glass. Figure out the rest. I did what she asked, though I didn't see how little men could help. Meanwhile, Zaya gave Carter a piece of chalk and told him to draw a circle around us, connecting the statues. Magic protection, Carter said, like what Dad did at the British Museum. Yes, I grumbled, and we saw how well that worked. Carter ignored me. What else is new? He was so eager to please Zaya that he jumped right to the task of drawing a sidewalk art. Then Zaya took something else from her bag, a plain wooden rod like the one our dad had used in London. She spoke a word under her breath, and the rod expanded into a 2-meter-long black staff topped with a carved lion's head. She twirled it around single-handedly like a baton, just showing off, I was sure, while holding the wand in her other hand. Carter finished the chalk circle as the first scorpions appeared at the gallery's entrance. How much longer on that gate? I asked, hoping I didn't sound as terrified as I felt. Stay inside the circle no matter what, Zaya said. When the gate opens, jump through and keep behind me. She touched her wand to the chalk circle, spoke another word, and the circle began to glow dark red. Hundreds of scorpions swarmed towards the temple, turning the floor into a living mass of claws and stingers. Then the woman in brown, Serket, entered the gallery. She smiled at us coldly. Zaya, I said, that's a goddess. She defeated Bast. What chance do you have? Zaya held up her staff, and the carved lion's head burst into flames, a small red fireball so bright it lit the entire room. I am a scribe in the house of God, in the house of life, Sadie Kane. I am trained to fight gods. And that was chapter 11, and I am going to end the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you did, and give me your opinion on the books, give me your opinion on the chapters I read, and give me your opinion on, well, you know, whatever you want to give me your opinion on. Riordan has some other series that I would definitely like to tell you about, and I'm definitely going to be reading shortly. He's got the Percy Jackson series and the what's that thing called? Oh shit! The Gods of Olympus series, I think it's called. Hang on. Uno momento. What the fuck? I think that's how you say that. Terrible at Spanish, guys. I'm terrible at Spanish. Need to learn some Spanish. Heroes of Olympus. So I've got the Percy Jackson series and the Heroes of Olympus, and I've got 2 books from the Kane series, the Kane Chronicles, and I'm going to be trying to get some of, I don't know if he's released a second one, but I'm going to try and get the Norse one. What's that called? I forgot. But anyway, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you did, and don't forget to, give me your opinion on all that crap that I mentioned before. That was chapter 9 through 11. I'll be doing chapter 12 through probably 15 in the next video. And I know that I need to get some of the videos for the other book that I've been reading, Morpheus Road. I have the book next to me at this current moment, and I'll be doing another video with that one tomorrow, and I'll try to find some time to do the Red Pyramid again. So, thank you for watching, guys, and let me pick my mouse back up. Accidentally knocked it over. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys later. Have a nice day. Woo!